the hoots of the steamboats could be heard, and the dim stirring of stevedores' shouts and vendors' cries. After summer's gluey horror, the autumn air was crisp. The city was resuming its wintertime bustle and prosperity. "Your name was given him by that dirty American policeman you take up with, but perhaps it's all to the best." That dirty American policeman was Abishag Shaw, lieutenant of the New Orleans City Guard. Though, as a rule, like most of the citizens of the French town, white and colored alike, January mistrusted Americans profoundly, particularly those in positions of power, he liked Shaw and respected him. Still, his mother spoke no more than the truth. January folded his powerful arms and waited. He had not, he noticed, been invited to sit in the presence of a white man and his former master. Nor had his mother said, "Get yourself some coffee, Ben." It was one thing for a white man to share coffee with a velvet-brown mulatto woman. White men did it all the time, in these small cottages at the rear of the French town. The custom of the country. For generations, French and Spanish Creoles had taken free women of color as their mistresses, as Saint-Denis Janvier had 33 years ago freed and then taken her. It was another thing. January could see this in her eyes, hear it in her artfully artless silence, to ask a white gentleman to sit in the same room drinking coffee with the coal-black son of a mulatto and a slave. In the 18 months since his return from 16 years in Paris, years in which he had practiced both surgery and music, January had never been permitted to forget that this house was his mother's, not his. If Simon Fourchet was conscious of any of this, he didn't show it. Maybe he accepted it as natural that a grown man wouldn't be permitted to drink coffee in the house where he lived, should a white man be seated there.
"There's a secret campaign of deliberate destruction going on at Mon Triomphe,"
the planter said, glancing up at January from under the grizzled overhang of his brows.
"Spoliation, arson, wrecking, ruin, and murder, and maybe open revolt."
Mon Triomphe, January recalled, was Fourchet's other plantation. When Fourchet had sold Bellefleur, years after January, his mother and his younger sister had been sold and freed, the planter had gone there permanently. It lay upriver in Ascension Parish, some 20 miles southeast of Baton Rouge. 20 miles, that is, if you wanted to hack your way through cypress swamps and untamed woodland, instead of journeying twice the distance in half the time via steamboat on the river. 42 years ago, in 1793, the year of January's birth, Fourchet had managed Mon Triomphe himself, and left Bellefleur in the care of his brother-in-law, Gervais Duhamel, only returning there after the grueling hell of the Rue Laison, the sugar grinding, was done. Bellefleur had lain close to the small, walled city of New Orleans, to which Fourchet brought his Spanish wife and their 2 children every year for the carnival season. They lived in the big house at Bellefleur for the weeks between Twelfth Night and Easter, entertained guests there, something impossible in the isolated fastnesses of Ascension Parish. Saint-Denis Janvier, who had eventually bought January's mother, had been one of those guests. In 1798, when January was 5, there'd been a slave revolt on Mont Triomphe. It may have been fueled by rumor, hope, and the example of Christophe's rebellion in the island of Saint-Domingue, though the aunts and uncles and cousins whose cabins January had played in said that it started when a drunken Fourchet beat a young girl to death. Fourchet's wife and daughter died under the machetes of the infuriated slaves. The revolt was crushed, of course, but after that, Fourchet sent his sister and her husband to Mont Triomphe and ran Bellefleur himself.
"It began with a fire in the sugar mill."
Fourchet's harsh voice summoned January back to the present, back to the grim-faced man sitting in his mother's yellow chintz chair drinking coffee while he himself stood.
"We hadn't started harvest yet. You lose half your sugar if you cut too soon, and the hands were still bringing in wood from the Cypriere. My sugar boss managed to get the fire put out, but the beams that held the grinders were damaged. They broke 2 days later, and that put us back."